Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today for What's New in the Solid Edge ST10 webinar series. We'll be highlighting today what's new in Solid Edge ST10 and show you how the latest version can help you design faster without the constraints of traditional 3D modeling. My name is Elise Woods, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Swoosh Technologies, and I will be your host for today. Just a little on Swoosh, we're partnering with the best when it comes to providing software solutions, technical support, and process-based training. We're an award-winning leading provider and partner of Siemens PLM, and have also teamed with leaders in the industry, including SMAP 3D, Markforged, CamWorks, KeyShot, and Mentor Graphics. We're committed to delivering professional and educational services that optimize your everyday design and manufacturing processes. Presenting today is application engineer Dylan Malik. For over 2 decades, Dylan has seen the growth and challenges of CAD design and understands how the latest technology has really benefited many companies' processes. With his hands-on experience in sheet metal fabrication, structural design, surfacing, rendering, animation, and 2D drafting to 3D modeling, he is a certified Solid Edge professional and is a sought-after Swoosh training instructor with a great working knowledge of best practices that can help your team better deliver products painlessly. Solid Edge ST10 combines cloud capabilities and data management that you'll need to accelerate your workflow while pushing your productivity to the limit. The latest version allows your team to focus more on your design and less on the software. Today, Dylan will be talking about built-in data management. Manufacturing organizations struggle to work effectively with the fast-growing volumes of data that they create when designing and manufacturing their products. Solid Edge's built-in data management capabilities are enhanced with even easier setup and administration, and improvements in the user interface help speed up completion of everyday tasks and reduce errors in the design process. During this presentation, if you do have any questions, please feel free to add them into your questions box located in your GoToWebinar panel. At the end of the presentation, Dylan will answer all the questions. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to Dylan and let him take this away.
Thank you, Lise. All right, so just have a couple PowerPoint slides to go through before we kick off. Kind of want to just walk you through the current PLM solutions that we have and what we have offered kind of in the past. So first, kind of the lowest level that we did have prior to the fast search options that are available now. We had SharePoint solutions, which include Insight and Insight SP. Those again requires a SharePoint portal and SQL database, some other Microsoft products to make it work. It's usually, it's a little bit to set up. Again, check in, check out, manage documents, move things around. So it does a really good job of automating some things that you would have to manually do in Solid Edge. All right, so where do we go from there? Oops, wrong way. Is Team Center Rapid Start. All right, so again, it's your full function PDM. It's got some out-of-the-box functionality. What do you mean by that? Is it has some built-in workflows already predefined, kind of like what I have with the in-work, released, obsolete, something to that effect. And again, it does require some third-party products. It's not necessarily dependent on Microsoft products like Insight is. Oracle or other types of databases are used. And last one, full-blown Team Center. Again, this is really for the guys out there who have multiple locations, whether it's in the United States, continental, or overseas. It keeps all your data kind of linked together on a global scale. Again, multiple user setup. Kind of the free stuff that we have with Solid Edge. They say 1 to 5 or 7 users. Under 10. It really depends on the type of data, and I'll explain that here shortly. And again, it requires kind of same setup as the previous one. And again, they all have the ability to, as disaster recovery, to offload these to be backed up, to be recovered anytime you need, as opposed to just copying a directory where files are stored. All right, so it does give you some capabilities that you would never get even doing manual kind of conversions of your data. All right, so let's take a look at what users are using data management. So within our Solid Edge community, we have found that at least 60% of people don't use any type of management tools at all, just basically Windows storage and just kind of looking manual searches, etc. All right, and of course the other small percent, we don't have these broken out into how much percentage of each use, but between the three, we are looking at 40% of our customers that do use it. And breaking down that even further, 70% of those customers are 5 seats or less. All right, so that's very important. Again, you don't really need a full-blown enterprise worldwide system if you're just 5 guys in an office. So that's why we're kind of offering this solution that you're about to see. All right, so let's talk what we just covered here. All right, again, data management, it's based on third-party underlying solutions that you can implement into your network and or Solid Edge. Tie these all together to manage your data. All right, and again, these are typically not cheap. If you're talking about maintenance on some of these and or buy and buy client licenses for individual users. Sometimes you can have different versions somebody is creating. Sometimes you need viewers. So you can buy different versions of them, but still there's a cost incurred. And again, we would be your go-to guys. If you want to say, hey, we're looking at we want some PDM, what do you recommend? And we would gladly sit down with you and see what currently what you have set up. If you're creating tons of data daily, we have a solution. And if you just want to make sure your documents are vaulted, obviously we point you into a different arena. So, you can just talk to us. We'd gladly help you out. And again, as I said, different products, different levels of functionality based on what you need. We do have a solution that we can help you with. And again, 70% of our customers are typically the 5 seats or less, and 60% don't even use data management. So what are those that don't use data management? What are they actually doing? Like I mentioned, in the days before data management, was using Windows Explorer. You just store your files inside of a directory, and hopefully everybody, nobody deletes things or moves things, because obviously anybody who's used a parametric CAD system, and it's not just us, SolidWorks and Inventor, you have parts, assemblies, sheet metal parts, drafts, things that are linked together, and you start renaming things, moving things around just randomly. While you open up an assembly and draft, you're going to be missing things. So you have to be really diligent in the way you're doing this. Again, the list of things, as I mentioned, broken links, duplicate files. Duplicate files are bad. You save a file one directory, copy, paste to another, start working on something else. Sometimes something may rev, and you may release the assembly with the wrong revision. Again, that's costly. For the guy doing the design, it's easy to change electronically. The guy in the shop, usually a lot more cost involved once the part gets released and made and put in and installed. That's usually where it's expensive. So you kind of prevent that. So we do have some tools, and I'll show you how we do that now with our new technology. That's not new. It's an addition to ST10 technology we came out with last year. All right. So built-in data management. All right, we had Revision Manager. I guess prior to ST7, I think it changed into what they call Design Manager. It's a lot more easy to use, has some built-in tools. So, where do we go from there? Let's add that into Solid Edge, which is what they did. They took those Design Manager tools, wrote them into their own environment in Solid Edge. You'll see that here shortly, and how they work. Very, very easy. When I set this up initially, I was shocked how easy it was. I couldn't believe how fast it was to make it work. All right, so let's. Just again, to set it up, I'm not going to walk you through the installation, but I'm going to show you some locations that you need to look for and things to do. And again, this is just really quick and easy. So again, it's for fast searches. You get a lot of information about your properties that are now accessible through Windows. Literally get up and running within an hour, and that's not a joke. All right, so just give you a little info on the demo I'm about to work with. It's a customer of Siemens, Bernina. It's actually a sewing machine, and they're the first to do it back in 1893. They developed the very first kind of like desktop sewing machine that's not some big, huge steam-powered contraption. This Thomas Edison was around same time these guys were developing this. So they know what they're doing. So let's switch over to Solid Edge, and let me give you a run through. Oh, actually, well, let me kind of give you. I was going to tell you I was going to do the layout of the land, how we set this up first before we start going into the demo. So simple. So kind of go into settings, options, and we have some manage options here. It is literally just coming over and say use Solid Edge data management. Check that box off, and these become accessible to set up. I have a couple locations I'm working with, so just for the ease of demo, I just moved this to my desktop as a index location. Of course, my E where my files are stored is my kind of overflow location. So currently I have set it up to look in this folder. If it doesn't find what I'm looking for, it will go out and now look in this folder to see if that file exists. If it doesn't exist in these two locations, well, it just doesn't exist. So that's kind of how you would set it up. Again, I'm working locally. So if you work from a multi-person Solid Edge site where you have 5 guys sharing files on a server, there's only a couple extra steps you have to do. All you have to do is load from the Solid Edge disk, fast search on the server. So there's an install from that. Set that up to be indexed. It's very simple to do. I'll show you how to do it on the client machine here in a second. All right, down here at the very bottom with a couple check boxes, top one, very cool. Automatically revise and copy drawings that use like the 3D diagram. So what that boils down to is if I open up a part or an assembly and see that there's a draft associated with it, this will take care of that draft for me. It'll rename it. It doesn't update it. That's kind of still for you to do, but it will actually take care of properties and all that, which is a huge time saver. All right. Again, speaking of properties, Solid Edge draft is nothing without properties. Your bill of material would be empty, and of course your title blocks would be empty without properties. And we take full advantage of all these properties, custom properties as well. So you can see we have our settings here to look at those. And of course, I have my propseed.txt. So anybody who's used Solid Edge knows that's where all your properties get applied to. So I'm just pointing to that particular file, and it has some custom properties in there for me. Last one is rebuild index. You typically don't worry about that. Only time you mess with that is if you already had an assembly, or excuse me, if you have a folder that's in the working directory that's already been indexed, and you go in and add some custom properties kind of after the fact, you would have to re-index those to access those properties, but that would be the only reason to actually do that. All right, document name. Very simple setup. We do now include this little part number generator. And again, it could be set up through a custom INI file to kind of be set however you want. It could be numbers, letters, and it'll increment in a certain way. Or if you just want to use your own numbering system, obviously that is used as well. As for handling revisions, all right, I have it set to A, but it could be easily set to 1, 2, 3 as it is ABC. It's just based on how your standards are at your office. And the last one is just some life cycle stuff in where my in-work folders are located. And that's pretty much it on the Solid Edge side. All right, so on the Windows side, just a couple things to check. Services, bring that up real quick. And it's just Windows search. That's what you would look for. And here, basically, you want to make sure that it is actually on, not disabled, and just set it to automatic. So that way, when you boot up, it's an automatic startup thing. Automatically happens. Found a couple on installs that was turned off. Again, that's easily remedied. And well, how do you set up what you want to index? Well, easy enough. Type in index now in your Windows start. So right now, these are the folders that are included. And again, my C drive, kind of my overall C drive, and my E drive. If you just want to go in there in advance to look at some of the options we have, you can obviously index particular file types, particular extensions. So if you just want to look at index for Solid Edge parts, you can obviously just add those in there as the only thing that's being indexed. For makes searches a little bit faster. I mean, they're fast as it is, but I guess if you have, a few million parts, it could get slower as time progresses. All right, so that's really all there is to set what get indexed and where. And all right, let's hop over real quick to this folder structure. So if you're going through Windows, so right now it doesn't really look like much, but once I get into this folder, get into my working folder, you notice we have some different properties that you would normally not see inside of Windows, kind of like document numbers, revision numbers, status, etc. We added those in, and again, if I just right-click up here on the menu bar and say More, it's amazing the sheer amount, obviously, what Windows gives you. But if I go down to the SE location, we have SE status, and we get into the obviously ST10 document number. So these are more of the custom properties that I mentioned that if I want to add up into this list, I can. You don't want to get too many up here. The more you have, the more criteria I have to search for. And again, the more you have, the more cluttered it gets, maybe a little harder to see. So there's a fine balance to what you want to see and what you're searching for. Typically, I find the document number, the revision, even the status. Obviously, if you're worried about things that are in work, released, or available, and sorting for things. Obviously, you can sort by types and/or use a little checkbox just to say, hey, let's just see what A revisions are there or what C revisions are available. It's just a really nice interface to be able to get around in. And your searches, these again are coming from some of your solid-edge text files. So if I go and type in SE, oh, sorry, not sorry. Let's see. What am I looking for? Oh, I think I did add that mnemonic in there, so I will just get past that for now. Basically, it's some search criteria that you add in your text files that lets you type in like SE doc number, and it just basically breaks it down into just seeing the document numbers as opposed to all the information. All right, so that's pretty much all you need to see. Again, all your properties are stored over here on the right side. We're going to actually work with this ball clamp here shortly, so we're Rev A of this. So let's switch over to Edge and let's take a look for that file. All right, so let's make it a little easier to see. Let's open this up a little bit, hide the covers. All right, so there we go. And let me make a little, hide some of these reflections and stuff up and make it easier for you to see. There we go. That looks pretty good. All right, so again, what we were talking about here a second ago is looking at these clamps. Let's say I got a notification by email saying, hey, there's a released version of this that's a different rev. All right, and we're looking at that part right there in red. It's a two-hole, what they call a ball clamp that's holding this little ball in place. And it's actually a subassembly, so we're going to actually play with that. And in this current state, in my Pathfinder, you notice we have some little symbols outside of these things, and that's not released. You notice it doesn't have a little check mark next to it. And I'll hover over it, and it'll tell you, who did it, what version or revision it's currently at, etc. Let's expand some of these out. So this is a fairly complex assembly. Lots of sub-assemblies, lots of parts to look through. So again, looking through, trying to go find individual parts could be tedious. So that's why we have those tools now under data management. All right, so what we're going to do is just kind of tell it to go through this assembly. Zoom out here and say, go look for newer parts. So get latest releases of my parts. So it's going to kind of scan through there, and you notice it kind of ghosts the image there of parts that aren't needed. You don't have to show those if you don't want to. You can easily just turn off your ghosted parts with this dialog. At any given time, just a little FYI, down here in the lower right-hand corner is all your view locations and abilities to turn off and on different views. So I'm just kind of going to position this, and what we want to do is actually say look for only released parts. All right, so again, it took those little balls out, so now we just have these clamps and this guide up here. And all we want to work with is these guys. So I could say select all, but again, I don't want these. I just kind of want those clamps. and tell those to go to the next version. So, or actually the newer version, not the next version, the newer version. So there we go. So now that's the one with the slot in it, and of course that's Rev B, and that's a release part. All right, so that wouldn't show up again if I said go find newer parts. All right, let me turn that screws back on. That looks good. All right, so typically if you're revving a part file, the subassembly that's going to be in is going to have that rev as well, so it's going to change. And currently we're in this ball A assembly, so let's go under our data management and let's go ahead and revise this now. Create a new revision of this. All right, so we're going to create a new revision. We're going to go ahead and tell it we want it to be B, and go ahead and just save it now. So it automatically updates the draft. So let's go ahead and save it. And what it's going to do is ask me now, this part's used 7 different times in the entire assembly. It could be just maybe I want to replace this one occurrence, and let the other ones have the current version. And maybe it's actually at this assembly level, maybe it's in sub-assemblies and some at the top level. I don't really know, so I'm going to go ahead and use this last one, and it's going to take care of it. Just look for every single one of them and replace it everywhere. So kind of zoom out here now. So no matter where those at, it's going to replace those with a new version. All right, that looks good. All right, so let's go take a look and see. I believe, I didn't look, but I believe there was a drawing available with that, so I'm going to go tell it to open that drawing for that particular part. Again, big time saver. I don't have to go look for the part. No search is needed. It kind of does it for me. Anytime you see boxes around your parts in Solid Edge, it's out of date. And obviously, it's the tool hole version, so let me update my draft to the new release. All right, so there's the new version. There's the Rev B, so it automatically keeps all track of that, just based through properties again. All right, so that part's ready to go. It's released. Draft's done. Looks good. All right. And let's take a look at this part. I mentioned it too. There was different versions of it out there. Without having to create another version, we can actually look at the different revision levels we have of that part. So I'm going to highlight it and tell it to go for revisions. All right, so it looks like we have it in a couple different places and a couple different versions. So let's take a look at the preview. So that's C. There's a B version that happens to be released, and there's a C version out there that happens to be released. That's in my release folder already, so let's go ahead and just say replace that one. So we're going to replace the one that's not released with that in the release folder. And again, do you want to replace that one individual part or all of them? There we go. So now that guide is released. It's got a check symbol here, so that part we know is released. So we're good there. All right. So what do we do with parts that don't particularly have, we don't want to rev or release, maybe we want to make a new version of? All right, simple enough. All right, some of the current tools we have, we're going to do that with that on this part right here. We've had this in there for a while. If you just right-click part, we're going to go ahead and tell this part to replace with copy. But using the the fast search options within Solid Edge, it's going to be a little more easy to take care of now. Again, we are in A with this particular A parts. Let's go ahead and assign all. All right, so go to whatever part numbers you want to use next. This is going to be Rev A because this is a new part number, and just going to go ahead and save it. All right, done. All right, so now let's go ahead and modify this part. Now that it's a new part, we'll just hide the other geometry, and it's easy to do. We're in synchronous. I don't have to go find these in the tree. I'm just going to window what I want. I didn't get these bottom two. Oops, missed that bottom one still. There we go. And just delete those. And we don't need all this extra material here, so we're just going to tell that to match the front face. And there we have it. All right, part's done. And just close that back. to the assembly. It's where it's needed to be located, and let's go again. Just go see if there's a drawing associated with that. There it is. All right, this was the previous one. There's the flat pattern, of course, the ISO view. Again, just a simple update here. Both views updated, parts released. 009, Rev A. I'm happy. All right, save. And sorry, save. There we go. And the last thing I mentioned, Design Manager, the tools built into it. We're going to go ahead and look down here and open up this subassembly. I've got a little subassembly with some shafts in here. What we're going to do is go out and use, as I mentioned, the ability to pop over into the Design Manager. All right, well, and what we're going to do is tell it to go look for, duplicate parts. So what let's go ahead and just say, grab all those parts and say, hey, we'll go find duplicates. But again, if you're in a Windows-only directory, copy, paste, move files around, it happens pretty easily. So let's go and say find duplicates. And so we got a few parts in here. Looks like these, the check marks, no duplicates found. And we got a couple up here that are duplicated in a couple different locations. And as you can see, the top line right here is the one we're currently in. So that's the assembly we're in. And these are other parts that it actually may be either found with a duplicate name. It'll actually look for matching geometry. So as we go through, that part has a duplicate document number, so I'd probably want to go get rid of that or do something with the document number to change that, because it does not match the same file. It's not the same geometry. This one happens to look like it match, and this one may as well. It has a drawing, and it's in a work. Maybe I want to go ahead and just use that one. So let's just say replace that part into my subassembly and hit finish, and there we go. Just perform actions and go back into Solid Edge, and there we have it. So that will do it for my demonstration. Is there any? Just hand it back to Elise, see if there's any questions.
So does Solid Edge history save all revisions made to a file?
Yes and no. Within the basic version of Solid Edge, the revisions are typically handled through multiple file. So you'd save as next release revision. But if you're working within like a built-in or a PDM system, you can do it that way, or you can actually store that rev history within the same file. So you can have one file with 4 or 5 different rev configurations built into it that you can kind of go back and forth to look at.
Okay, great. We also have one that says, I missed the step where the settings are Solid Edge and how to turn on the built-in tools.
Oh, okay, yeah. It actually took me a while to find that myself. All right, so inside of Solid Edge, you can be on the splash screen or within a template, doesn't really matter, but it's the application button, and it would be application, settings, options, and in the options tab, you have a manage field. So you go to manage and just toggle that on, and then you have all the settings to kind of predefine right there. But toggling that little switch is what turns on the fast search for Solid Edge.
Okay, and then I guess our last question would be, would it look any different inside of Solid Edge if you upgrade from the fast search to one of the PDM options that we sell?
Not in the Solid Edge interface, not really. You would have some of the similar tools that you have in the fast search, accessing Design Manager and revving and things like that. That would be pretty much identical. Inside the Pathfinder, pretty much you get the same kind of check boxes that show parts are released, all the basic information. So for the user, there's no difference. Where it does differ is typically like Team Center and Insight have an intermediary interface, some kind of web interface typically that you can kind of work with to move files around instead of using Windows Explorer. This is usually a web interface to access. So that would be really the only difference. But inside of Edge, it would look identical no matter kind of what you use.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dylan. We're getting close to the end of our time, so we're gonna wrap things up now. And again, as a reminder, if we weren't able to get to your question today, please know that I will just send them over to Dylan and he will reach out to you via phone or email to make sure that your question was answered. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. Again, I hope that you guys can join us for our next session in the series. It's on Thursday, October 19th at 2 p.m. Central Time, and this will be covering synchronous modeling and sheet metal.